Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Whatever This Is podcast. We're back for another week, and this is a very, very special episode because we have a very special guest on. Probably we've got a guest who's highly involved in Russian football. He's someone who's working in the industry. We're honored to have him on. Before we start with that, of course, joined by my usual co-host Artem. Artem, how's it going? What's up? What's going on? How you feeling?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm super excited. Like you said, we have a fantastic guest on this week, so I'm really looking forward to getting into some conversation with him. There's no point in talking to me now about this. Why don't you just go introduce our guest?
Yeah, sure. So our special guest this week is Mr. Mikhail Polenov himself. If you watch any Russian football, if you've ever watched like a match premiere game, if you watch like a match TV game, if you're in Russia, you will know him. He's a very famous commentator. He works on European football games. He's also a pundit, so you may have seen him in the studios. And he's our most high-profile guest yet. And Misha, we're really honored to have you on. Thanks a lot for coming on. How you doing? How you feeling? What's going on?
Hi guys, thanks for having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
Right. So we've got a few topics this week. We've got some transfer stuff to get to. We've got a lot of general discussion points to get to. But to start, Misha, why don't you tell our listeners, maybe the ones in foreign countries that may not know much about your work, how you
Mhm.
got started in the football industry, what games you commentate on, what your current roles are, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, sure. I've been working in the industry in the on the satellite sports TV in Russia for. I've been working there for 15 years now. I started in January 2006. Since then, well, I've covered a couple of major tournaments like the World Cup in Russia and of course Euros, for example, in Ukraine and Poland. I've been working
Mm-hmm.
on Russian Premier Leagues mostly, league games and Spanish Primera, and of course the European Cups involving Russian teams. Although now it has become, pretty rare stuff because we suck in Europe,
Yes, we
the regular
absolutely do.
basis.
That is an understatement. We suck in Europe.
Yeah, we really do, and that's it's a very common topic. When the Champions League games were going on, every week in this podcast we would come in here depressed because we just would not win. Like it took I think 5 weeks for Krasnodar to get the first win against Rennes, but every week we would just come in and we'd be like, oh, okay, Lokomotiv they drew. That's the best result of the week, a draw against like Atletico Madrid, and so it was really depressing that little period. But do you have any favorite teams, Misha, in football? What teams do you support?
Well, it's very difficult for me to persuade anybody that I'm not a fan of Zenit St. Petersburg because I grew up in St. Petersburg.
Right.
And well, I actually was a fan, and I did go to the stadium. I started supporting the team in 1995. I'm that old, when they were playing in the Russian First League. It's one level below
Yeah, yeah,
the Premier League. They were not that fancy club as they are now. They were not sponsored by Gazprom at that time, and so it was really a local team that was in the middle of a very painful recovery, I have to say. But since I started working at NTV Plus, it's a satellite sports channel.
yeah.
Uh, Probably my view on football a little bit changed, and I cannot call myself a fan anymore of either team. Maybe the only team that I really support is Russian national team. But well,
Right.
yeah, it's the football team of my country. Of course, I do this. I can say that I'm a fan of Russian national team.
That's a good
Hmm.
answer. That's a good answer.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
really nice answer.
a couple of years ago, I was listening to a couple of your interviews in the lead up to this podcast. I was getting kind of informed on who you are and things like that. And there's an interesting thing that I heard you say, and it was that the biggest nightmare of every commentator is the fear of sneezing during a live match.
Oh yeah.
At that time, you said that it hasn't happened to you. Has it happened since?
Well, not yet, not yet. I'm lucky, or maybe I'm not that lucky. Maybe it's better to have this experience and be and be over it. I don't know. Well, I live in constant fear of sneezing somewhere alive. That's a little bit disturbing sometimes. But well, thank you for reminding me that. Now I'll think about it during this
Exactly,
podcast.
that's the point. Because the thing is, this is a very, very safe zone. So even if you sneeze, nothing's going to happen. It's not like a big match game. So you can get the learning experience, and it'll all be fine. So
La- Last week I couldn't breathe. I drank water and it went down the wrong pipe. It went down my lung. And I was coughing the whole time. And Hanu started the podcast as I was coughing. So yeah, like hopefully something nothing like that will happen in your in your live commentaries.
yeah,
Let's
but
hope.
the Zenit point you made is also really interesting because Artem is a big Zenit fan. I'm also a Zenit fan. Like I'm a Real Madrid fan mostly,
Hmm.
but I would say that my Russian club is Zenit. And since you do talk about and you commentate on the Spanish league, and I am a Real Madrid fan, I can't help it. I have to ask, who do you think is going to win the Span? Do you think Atletico have won it this year, or do you think Real or Barcelona still have a chance?
No, I don't think that any of those clubs have any chance against Atletico playing like this. They have lost only one game, and well, it's weird, but they lost it against Real Madrid.
Yes.
So, well, I don't know how they do that, but still, no, I don't believe that anything can happen. They are too good, and even having Joao Felix for out for a couple of weeks because of the COVID, I
Yeah.
don't think that is going to impact them that much. They have to lose at least 3 or 4 games just to put their title in peril. I'm not seeing that at this moment.
Yeah, it's the same with me because as like Real Madrid are honestly the weirdest club in the world because we will
Among
beat
them, yes.
yeah, we will beat the biggest teams in the world with ease, and then like we'll lose to a third tier team. All our players are injured. We're not signing anybody. It is honestly just and you know what would be even like I would not be surprised if we finished fourth in the league but won the Champions League. That's how weird of a club we are.
Yeah, it has
Um,
happened already a couple of
exactly.
times
Yeah, it's
previously. Yeah.
just
Hanu,
but okay,
I know
go on.
you're trying to be optimistic, but I don't think Real Madrid are going to win the Champions League either.
I know they're not, but I mean, I have to, there has to be some hope because right now I don't see any hope right now. But Misha, last Real Madrid question: do you think Zidane should stay or do you think he should go?
Well, it's a complicated question. I have a colleague of mine who is a Real Madrid fan. Well, I also support him, but I'm not a fan. I just sympathize Real Madrid a little bit more than Barca, for example. And so
Good.
he has. I like very much how he put it that Zidane is kind of a cat because he always survives at the most crucial moment when he's on the brink of being sacked. For example, at the eve of El Clasico, for example, or
Yeah.
when he must win both games against Inter in the Champions League.
Yes.
He does that. He always lands on 4 paws. He doesn't have any. He hasn't lost any crucial game. Okay, he can be defeated twice by Shakhtar in the Champions League. He can be eliminated from the cup against Alcoyano, who are having one player down.
Yeah.
But the most important games, he wins. He wins the Clasico. He beats Inter twice. He wins against Atletico Madrid. If he gets to the semi-final of the Champions League with this team, wow! I don't even know what Florentina should do to him because well, it's gonna be a kind of a miracle. But I don't believe that actually. I think that they're in a very, very deep reconstruction right now, and because
Yeah.
of the COVID and the finance situation and the reconstruction of Bernabeu, I think it's gonna take a while and it's gonna be rough.
A
Yeah. It's
couple of
very. Mhm.
sorry, Hannah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's how unfortunately we are right now. Is that it's so unpredictable. It's because and you know what, I think with Zidane, every Real Madrid fan loves Zidane. Obviously, win 3 Champions Leagues in a row. It's an amazing thing. But it's sometimes we just feel like we just want something different because his play style is pretty similar. Um, and some people, don't trust him. I don't know what to think honestly, because like we'll lose some games, but then we'll win 10 games straight. It's just extremely weird. But that's the end of my Real Madrid thing. Artem, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like Hanu, a couple of weeks ago, brought up in a podcast with me and Connor that he thinks that Zidane is in the conversation to be one of the top five managers of this century. I didn't think he's in my top five, but what do you think? Do you side with Hanu on that, or do you think that?
Well, according to what? Because if we judge him as a title winner, well, he's among the best, of course, because, well, nobody has ever won the Champions League twice in a row. He did it 3 times in a row. And with not the most, not with the strongest team in the Champions League, of course, but he did that. At the same time, it's getting back to the Hannes point. Sometimes he failed in the Spanish league, and at the same time he won the Champions League. What does it say about? I think it says a lot about his motivation skills, about his ability to get the team ready at the most crucial moment and win the next game, the most important, the most decisive, and probably sacrifice a couple of games coming up next. But if we talk about him as a changer, as a coach that has brought something new, I think that it would be a total exaggeration to say that he has brought anything, any kind of a revolution. Pep Guardiola did, and maybe Jurgen Klopp did, and Jose Mourinho, of course, did. But Zidane, no, I don't think so. I don't think that every manager has to be a kind of a revolutionary, that he has to bring something new, some Zidanism, maybe. I don't think so. So both yes and no. He wins titles. That's cool. And he was an outstanding player. It was just total delight to watch. And it doesn't happen very often when a player like that becomes a very successful coach. And I'm happy that this happened with Zidane. But do I think I'm one of the best? Nah, no. I think no.
That's fair
That's
because yeah, it's a really tough question because I think our original top. I actually said that he would be in my top three, but then Artem just criticized me so much that I had to back down.
Mhm.
I think Artem, who it was Sir Alex, it was Guardiola, it was Mourinho,
yeah.
and I said that Zidane would 100% be in my top five of this
Mhm.
century. But I think some people were saying Klopp should be in there, which I'm fine with. But
See,
I
like
think after
Klopp
that,
and
I
Art,
don't think anybody else can be in the list.
I think Arsene Wenger's still in with a show. Like I do think that like everything Misha said was the right. Like he didn't do anything crazy to change the game or the tactics that's being played with, which Mourinho did, which Klopp did, which Guardiola did. But he is a winner. But the question is, like, I feel like he would be seen as one of the top managers if he hadn't come back to Real now. I feel like the second time he's come back and he's already proven everything he needed to prove. And I think this can only jeopardize his legacy unless he ends up winning a trophy this season or next season or however long he stays, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should try to persuade anybody, maybe each other even, because well, everybody has his own or her own point of view and decide what aspect of his career to highlight most, to which one is most important. Somebody would say that winning the trophies. Well,
Hmm.
yes, he did win a lot, but how many Spanish titles has he won? Not that
Yeah.
much, right? So,
Only two, I
well, there
think.
is always pro and contra, you know?
Yeah,
That's true.
absolutely.
And this is completely off topic, but this is what we like to do on this podcast. Artem, like he was watching your interviews and he found out that you had a lot of Boston Celtics merchandise on.
Yeah.
So, do you watch the NBA? Are you a Celtics fan?
Well, I try to. Now I have almost 18 months son, so it's a little bit. So I value the night time much more than I previously did. Um, so, well, I don't watch all the games right now, but I try to follow. Yes, it's a long story. I don't. It's even try for me to recall how it happened. But I started following all the Massachusetts, New England teams for quite a long time ago. It started with Boston Bruins actually. Then it was Celtics and the New England Patriots. Unfortunately, the soccer team, the football team in Massachusetts is not very good. But well, it's
Hmm.
okay because we have Red Sox and other franchises that rock. Yeah, I do follow them. Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting because we are also very amateur NBA fans. Like we try to
really. Who
yeah,
do you
we're
support?
trying to get into it. I support the Knicks, and the
Uh huh.
story is very funny. The story was that just one day as a joke, I woke up and at the time, like the Knicks, this was at the start of this season, only like a month ago. The Knicks like started very well. They were like 4-1 up or something.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a joke, I told Artem, the Knicks are going to get to the playoffs, and he said there's no chance. So
Uh huh.
then we had a bet, and then the Knicks lost like their next 6 games. So I just got I just got emotionally attached to the Knicks because of that bet, and now I'm a Knicks fan. Um, it's very silly, but it is what it is. I don't think Artem has a team yet. Artem, have you decided on a team finally?
I'm just enjoying the game. It's the same as Misha. I don't get the chance to really watch matches because like they're on a crazy o'clock. Like it would be like 2 in the morning when they start, and like having to wake up every morning and work, just no chance. So like I just follow the league, like kind of like you said, amateur fan. Watch the highlights here and then. Like I'm interested in seeing what happens with the Nets obviously this season with their 3 star players. But yeah, well, like that's pretty much it.
A couple of years ago, one of my dreams had come true because my wife and I were traveling across the United States, and we were in Boston, and we managed to buy the tickets to the Boston Celtics game, and it was just. If I remember it correctly, I couldn't sleep the night before because I was so excited. But the game was a complete disaster because Boston was at one of the most I don't know how to say it correctly in English. They were the most bottom, I think, seasons at that time. They
Wow.
were at they were just reshaping and getting their leaders go and getting new players, and so they were just down at the very bottom. And they scored 40 points at the first quarter, and they managed to lose the game. That was
Oh my
absolutely
God.
just yeah, it was hard to believe, but I didn't give a damn about the final score because, well, being at the TD Garden, just watching the game, they make a fantastic show of even if even with the teams that are very deep down. Now they good, but well, we follow our teams and we support them in different times, both good and bad.
Do you remember who they played against in that match?
Yeah, it was Detroit Pistons.
Okay,
Oh
okay.
wow. Jeez,
You
that
mentioned there that like this is I'm gonna bring this right back into Russian football. You mentioned that even though with the worst team, it was a good experience. Like American sports in general is very like
Yeah.
crazy. Like, the whole experience of the whole day out, like, you go and tailgate, you go support your team. There's like the whole day is a whole experience. Everybody really enjoys it. Do you think that like maybe Russia can learn a little bit from America, or do you think that Russian culture would just never be able to implement that kind of thing for sports?
Well, it's a good question, and it's a very important question, I think, because this culture might influence the whole perception of sports in the country. I can totally say that we do have a kind of a American way of watching and uh, American way in hockey, for example, in St. Petersburg. Well, of course, we talk about the pre-COVID times when they could have the full crowd. It was about 10 or 13,000 at every game, and it was really it was a show. It was a great performance before and after the game. So it was really very much like, well, as I think, of American League. But if we talk about, for example, CSK in basketball provides, I think, the same level. I mean, if we compare them to European teams, to the best European teams,
Yeah.
I think they sometimes they even beat them in all the surrounding stuff. I mean, not only the game, but in football. No, I don't see it. I don't see it just even getting close to the best examples of making a show, of making a tradition. I don't know why. The public is generally the same visiting sports in Russia, but probably there's too much aggression on football. I don't know how to get it out of the stands. It's many people tried, no one succeed. I don't know. Maybe it's sometimes I think that we are a little bit stuck in the past, because now we have football as a kind of a social movement, like it was in England in 70s and 80s, when
Absolutely.
it was a rough public looking for troubles, looking for fighting sometimes, and it was not a kind of a entertainment for rich people, so fancy and anything like that. Now we're transforming going to football, visiting football matches, but it's happening too slow.
Have you been to? Sorry, Hanu. Misha, have you seen any of the experiences that Zenit tried to put on at their stadium, at the Kristovsky, before their matches? Like, I know pre-COVID, for the last maybe 2 or 3 years, they've had maybe like, art galleries or like, food markets and players signing and stuff like that. Do you think anything do you think those things, do you think Zenit are right in trying to provide those things and make it more of an experience, or do you think that it's just it's a waste of time and money on their part?
Yeah. I think it works. Because you don't have one goal here, that is to get the full stadium. You want to make it a habit for people to go to the stadium every 2 weeks. When Zenit plays at home, you take the whole family, and you don't have to be scared about just any kind of a mob. Some of them are drunk or something, who are very aggressive and gonna abuse you and just curse all during the whole game. Of course, they try to change this tradition, this mentality. Maybe I think it's working, but it's very expensive. It doesn't give immediate results. You have to work hard. And I think it started not only at the Kristovsky Stadium. I think they started planting those seeds even when they were playing at their previous smaller stadium, Petrovsky. But of course, they could not make anything of that, anything that huge at Petrovsky. But they were trying to do that. Maybe if all the teams in Russia select this kind of approach, maybe things might change. But it's too expensive. It's too long, and I don't think that many clubs have that kind of a strategy in mind.
Yeah, it's like, it makes sense maybe for someone like Zenit, who are sponsored by Gazprom and heavily funded by them, but maybe not for the lower teams, like, well, obviously Tambov and those kind of things, which we'll speak about later.
There is a very good example on that matter is which is Football Club Krasnodar, because you have to visit and you have to see the difference before and now. because well, it's not the most, well, I don't want to offend anybody, but this area is not very sophisticated, educated, and so on. Sometimes they leave well, not sometimes, they always leave just heaps of trash after themselves on the stadium. But the owner of the new club, FC Krasnodar, Sergei Galitsky, he's a multi-billionaire, and he had this idea to change the behavior of the people. Nobody believed him. Nobody believed that he can change that. He did. He did. How? Well, you know, it was not that hard, because he tried to explain to the fans, I will allow you to come if you behave. You cannot have the, I don't know how to say it in English, Artem, I might need your help. The sunflower seeds.
Yeah, sunflower seeds. I mean,
Yeah.
that's yeah, that
So
makes sense.
they are not very pleasant when they are used, so those heaps of that stuff, and the napkins and everything, people just threw it down, and they were okay with that. They were not allowed to do anything like that. Okay, they don't. They can come to the game, watch it, support your team, enjoy on one of the best stadiums in Europe, and then you go home. And you don't need to be drunk, you don't need to fight, you don't need just anything of the like that. And this is happening in one of the, well, pretty, I should say, simple and very rural areas in Russia. And they are okay with that. So
Yeah,
I think the problem is not with the Russian people. I think the problem is that you have to find a kind of an approach to them. You have to talk to them. You have to address something. And if they like this idea, they will support you, and you won't have any problems there. So I think the clubs have to work on that direction. But as I have said, it's a very long and expensive way.
yeah. I think you're spot on, especially with Krasnodar, because the whole Russian football community we're massive fans of Galitsky because of not only because of what he's done with Krasnodar, because Krasnodar, they're a very likable club. They're a very they're like, I don't want to say rich club, but they seem like a club which is cosmopolitan, I guess would be a decent word. And I do think that Russian football is becoming more family friendly, more commercially viable, because if you look at like old highlights of Russian football from even 20 up until 2016, 2017, it did not seem as friendly. But ever since the World Cup, you have lots of new beautiful stadiums. There's been a dramatic increase in the quality of the broadcast and everything. And even the clubs, I feel like, are making efforts. Like, I think Zenit are softening a bit. They're trying to push to be more family friendly.
Yeah.
Spartak are trying to be more friendly online and everything. Then you've got Rostov, Krasnodar, Ufa are a really nice like community club. Arsenal Tula are a good example of that as well. So I think there are good things that are going on, and I feel like for the foreigner, or even for like someone who's not into football, Russian football is more accessible and more appealing in the modern day. So I do hope that a movement does begin soon. Um, but yeah, I mean that's what we have on that conversation. Let us know in the comments, by the way, guys, what do you think? Do you think Russian football is becoming more family friendly? Do you think there have been improvements? And Misha, this is completely off topic. It just came into my head. Have you ever been to India?
No, not
No.
yet.
You
But
must. Yeah, it's
this is one of the top countries on my list.
yeah, it's India and Russia are very similar, but also very different. Like some
Hmm.
things you'll find are very similar, like traffic, bad
Hmm.
driving, but but the crowds. I mean, India is just a wild country. But when you were talking about how Russians are very excited about hockey, but not as excited about football, I was just thinking, because
Uh-huh.
if you know the sport cricket, that's how we are with cricket. Like all each and every one of the 1.5 billion will watch cricket with great excitement, but we don't
Uh-huh.
care. We don't care about any other sport. Like our football is absolutely terrible. So some similar aspects over there.
Yeah,
I just have
Indian football clubs don't do very well in Europe either.
Yeah,
they
we
haven't
don't.
made it to Europe yet.
Eventually,
Yeah.
eventually we will get there.
I
Um,
have to. I have to mention, Hannes, sorry to interrupt that. I don't say that hockey is more popular. I say it's more civic, you know?
yeah, yeah, I get you. Now I get what you mean. Um, Now, this is we're going to move on to a section about transfers and stuff because it is the transfer window. There have been some moves this past week. There weren't many big moves. Nothing we really needed to mention on air.
Mhm.
But Misha, Artem is a huge Alexander Kokorin fan. We have a running joke that Artem is actually his PR agent because because he's one of Artem's favorite players. He's been tracking him since his like Dynamo youth days, and he's
Uh-huh.
moved to Fiorentina. How do you think Kokorin will do at Fiorentina?
I have two prospects on that. The first is a kind of a personal prospect, and I totally love this transfer because when you are a almost 30 years old Russian player, very talented and very, very much spoiled with a limit on the foreign players, and you have about 4 million euros a year as salary with a 13% tax, one of the lowest in the world, I think. Of course, sometimes it's possible that you stop working on yourself and stop developing. And when a player decides to leave those very comfortable zones and try new challenges, well, I like that. I applaud that because this is really what sport's about. Can he succeed there? I think yes. But mm, let's consider that he stopped playing in early December. He has had a vacation already. He had just a couple of training sessions with Spartak Moscow after um, coming out of that vacation, and now he joins the team that hasn't had any rest, that has to be on the peak of their
Hmm.
physical condition, and so it is extremely hard for him to um, to be accepted. I mean, football-wise, in this team, it takes a lot of time. Besides, he doesn't speak Italian. He has never been in the outside of the Russian culture, so it might be just kind of a challenge for him. But I do hope that he will be okay. Probably it's not the very best time to join Fiorentina right now because
Yeah,
uh, they change a lot. They have, just these changes at the coaching stuff, and they have a lot of players coming in and out. I don't think that this time of instability is very good for Kokorin to get into the team totally. But I hope it will be a success. I don't think that we can compare his story to Miranchuk's. I think they are totally different. Um, and well, let's just watch. Let's watch. I don't
yeah,
think that that there is anything that we can describe as a criteria of success for Kokorin and Fiorentina before the end of the season. I
hmm,
I don't want to to expect any precise number of goals, for example, from him. I just want to watch and let's see how he medals in.
manages. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Obviously it's really difficult to come into a team like you said after a winter break. Even his manager came out and said today in the news that it'll probably take him 3 weeks to get up to match fitness. He has finally been registered for the Serie A, and he will be traveling to the game against Inter tomorrow. So maybe we'll see a debut. I'm not hopeful. Hanu is, but we'll see how it is. It's gonna be an interesting journey for sure. And I guess another question we might have about just Russian players and Russian league players moving to Italy in general. Obviously, Shomurodov and Miranchuk have done pretty well in the first half of the season, and
Yeah.
now we have Gajic and Kokorin also also making their way over. Do you think that the Italian league is really starting to take note of Russian football and seeing it as, another option to buy players from, whereas maybe previously, Italy or any of the top five leagues never really looked to Russia for first team players?
Uh, well, let me be honest. I don't think that anything has changed in Russian league that makes us very attractive for Italian clubs right now. I think that all these stories that you've mentioned are different. For example, Kokorin had a very good protection of. Yeah, I'm sorry for my English. Sometimes I say some words that
Nah, don't
sound
worry about it.
okay
Don't worry about
in Russian, but maybe they're weird in English. So, for example, Fabio Capello and Roberto Mancini gave him very good recommendations. I think that it meant a lot for both Fiorentina and for the fans what to expect from him. Maybe they even didn't know who Kokorin was before that. Now they do. So it's time for him to prove it in the field. For example, Miranchuk is quite different. I think that Gasperini was a huge fan of his performance in the Champions League the year before, and he wanted to have him. He understood that it will take some time, maybe a lot of time, to build him in, but he wanted Miranchuk personally. And for Shomorodov, I think he has a very good record, not playing not only for Rostov but for the national team.
it. Yeah.
Uzbekistan was very successful at the Asian Cup, and he scored goals there. So I think he was on the spot. So I don't think that he was kind of a joker that came from out of nowhere. All these stories are a little bit different. But the one thing that unites them, and I like it, that it's the attention to the Russian Premier League. So now the European fans just understand that players from Russian Premier League can go to
Yeah.
serious European clubs. I think it's a good achievement for us.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and it's very interesting because a player like Shomurodov. Now, I love Eldor Shomurodov, but the thing was that he went from Rostov where he had, because he's the type of player where he's a target man, and if you give him the chance, if you like give him the cross, he'll score.
Mm-hmm.
But Genoa are a completely different team where they are absolutely terrible attack wise. They've become better with the new manager, but they're still a lower middle table side team. Whereas Rostov, they were challenging for Europe, so I didn't expect him to do that well. But that only furthered the thought in my head that the RPL actually has really good quality players. So even like apart from the other Miranchuk, apart from Zuba Azmoun, even apart from the big names, I feel like players like Mostovoy, Zinkovsky, Lisovoy, even these guys would do well in like the Netherlands or Belgium. But
Yeah.
of course, the main problem always has been that the players themselves don't want to go because they get more money in Russia or because they have a sense of safety in Russia. But since
Mm-hmm.
you probably like talk to or you have some interaction with some players, do you feel like that has started to change? Do you feel like younger players maybe now want to go to Europe, or do you think it's still the
Yes.
same?
Definitely. They definitely consider that. When Russian players moved to European countries in late 80s and early 90s, it was a kind of a they tried to escape the difficult life in Russia. They didn't earn that much. It was a kind of a chance for them, and they adapted there pretty quickly. For example, we have some players who played in Portugal, in Germany, in England, and they
Yeah,
easily speak well, more or less, they speak all those languages. Well, they are different, but still they managed to do that. The players um, in the middle, they didn't want to go, and
yeah,
the example of Andrei Arshavin, who wanted to move, who studied English and the airplane coming back from Tomsk, for example, in the middle of Siberia. He was reading books and just studying English because he wanted to move somewhere. This was a very rare example. But the young football players right now, I think they understand that if they want to develop, if they want to grow, if they want to progress, they have to go somewhere. Maybe it's not. It shouldn't be Barcelona or Manchester City. It might be something. Maybe not that the club with not that huge name, but still, when you get into that different culture, football wise and generally, you have to adapt, you have to develop a lot. So well, I think they want to. And besides, those who are 20 22 25 right now, most of them manage to get more or less good education, so they can speak more or less, for example, English, for example. That helps you a lot to adapt in a new country. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So just we'll move on to another big transfer that could happen. This one's coming into the RPL, and it's stalled a little bit in recent days. For those of you who've been following, Quincy Promes is likely to come back to Spartak. Although the last couple of days, there has been news that Spartak don't want to pay up front to Ajax because of his current legal battles. Misha, do you think that transfer is going to go ahead? And if you do, how do you think he's going to do in his return?
It's very hard for me to predict because when Quincy was here for the first term, he was much younger. He was a star, and I suppose that that Russia was a kind of important step to go further to Europe, because he could play in the Champions League with Spartak Moscow, and he could show himself to the European clubs. Well, that happened. He moved to Sevilla for 40 million, so it was a very good transfer for all of them, but for all sides. But now, I suppose that Russia for him might be a kind of escape, because of the well, I'm not a close friend of his. I don't know what's happening in his head, but with all those criminal charges for stabbing a person with a knife, and facing some criminal charges, and just being totally distracted from football, as I can imagine, I suppose that the invitation from Spartak Moscow might be a very good step for him, because, well, he's absolutely loved here. I think when he arrives, the fans will be absolutely excited. Russian league is not hasn't become much stronger since he left, so I think that he will be productive. He will score goals. He will provide, this entertainment to the game, to the performance of Spartak, and he will be loved here. But will there be a step forward career-wise? Well, I'm not that sure. But it doesn't mean that this transfer will fail. Even more, I'm quite sure that he's going to be a very successful player if he comes back to Sparta.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that if he comes back, like you said, it's not going to be a stepping stone. Exactly. It is his home. Like, people, the Spartak fans even call him Antoja. Like, it's people love him. People love him, and he's great for the league as well, because he's a fantastic player. So I think you're right in saying that if he moves to Spartak, that's going to be like he's probably going to spend like the last best part of his career there.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be moving to any other foreign clubs after that. The big question really is, do Russia have an extradition treaty with the Netherlands?
Yeah, that's the main question. I think.
Actually, I think that there is some. Recently, there has been some cases that involve extradition. I don't think that we do that now. I think that our relations with the European Union are just ruined.
There's no
Yeah,
direct
I
answer,
mean,
unfortunately.
yeah, especially recently, but we won't get into that too much.
Yeah. Let's keep that part.
Yeah. But I mean, Quincy Promes, man, great player. And the thing with him is Ajax fans hate him and Spartak fans love him. So the move is perfect. I think he wants to come back. He's loved. He'll have it good. I have no doubts about his ability. He's still only 29. He's got 6 goals in 19 games, which isn't bad at all. I think he has 2 or 3 good years in him before he sort of has to adapt. I still think he'll do very well. And if he does come back, um, I mean, if he does come back, I think that
Here,
four of Larson, Bakayev, Pons, and Quincy Promes, or even Sobolev, that would be insane. I think that's Spartak might win the league with that.
can I just
But
ask?
I have one concern about this transfer. It seems to me that Spartak is buying not the players that they need. They need number 9. They need a playmaker. They are not well.
Yeah, I
Hendricks
mean,
Hendricks plays too much deeper. He's a defensive midfielder, good or bad, but well, he's a defensive midfielder. Quincy is a winger.
yeah.
They have those players already, so they don't lack players on those positions. They need somebody creative, and that might be a game changer. But they still don't. We don't have any rumors about Spartak just in negotiations or just ready to buy a player on that position. This concerns me. So as if they. Uh, they want to get back to their ex because it was fun, but they have to move on and they have to build the team with the other players maybe.
I like that description. I actually think that Spartak have a few decent players who are creative in midfield. I think Bakayev can really do a job there, but obviously he has been playing out wide. It's it is I do think it's going to be a good move, but maybe Spartak do need to also buy a playmaker or someone like that.
Also,
But
yes, in addition, why not? Yeah.
but let me just ask the question to both of you. If Quincy
Mhm.
Promes comes back to Spartak and he's playing at the top of his game like he was when he was at Spartak last, who's the best player in the league? Is it Quincy Promes or is it still Vlasic?
Quincy Promes.
I
For
don't
me,
know. I
Quincy
think it's
Promes.
close.
Misha, what
For
do you
me,
think?
it would
Vlasic
be
or
for me
Promes?
it would be Vlasic.
You think prime Vlasic, or you think this Vlasic? Because by the way, I think Vlasic will go on to be one of the best attacking midfielders in the world, and I hope he leaves CSK this summer. But I think prime Quincy Promes is something different. I think apart from Hulk, maybe Arshavin. I mean, of course, Arshavin. There aren't many players better than prime Quincy Promes, in my opinion. I think it's
Well,
not. Yeah, go on.
yeah. No, sorry to interrupt.
No, I was just ending. I was just saying that I think Promes is just. It's not disrespect to Vlasic. It's just that Promes was amazing. So
But I think that we'd say the same thing about Vlasic when he leaves, because if you look at that CSK team, he is what makes it tick. Without him in the
yeah.
team, it's just not the same. So I can see arguments for both players. I personally don't know who I'd choose, um, but yeah, that's just something that came into my head. Like they're both fantastic.
The comparison probably is not very correct because firstly, they play on different positions. It's very important, and the
Yeah.
second one is their age, because well, of course, Vlasic is a rising star. He is in the position where Quincy was when he just arrived. So he's making an impression and he's willing to be signed by a top club in Europe, of course. So, well, I don't know. It's a tough call. Maybe I'm not that sure about Vlasic after your arguments here, guys.
Yeah, I think maybe when Vlasic, I think Vlasic will have the better career as compared to Promes. I think when Vlasic is in his prime, he'll be a better player than Promes. But
I
I
think
just
that
feel
goes
like
without saying, though. I think like it would be hard at this point in his career for Vlasic to have a worse career than Promes. Like if you look at where Promes went after Spartak, it's just been disappointment after disappointment. Whereas Vlasic, like even if he does okay at a Premier League team or in Spain or somewhere, it's still going to be better than what Promes has achieved.
it is, but it's also tricky because the next move that Vlasic gets is going to be really important. I think ability wise, it's no question, but we all felt like Promes could be amazing. We all felt like I think Mario Fernandez, even though he's a legend, he's a bit of a disappointment to me because he didn't get that big move, even though he had the ability. So I mean, we never know. Vlasic could just like
I never
make a bad
expected.
decision, make a bad decision, and the next thing you know, he's the next Promise or whatever. So I don't think
I
that
never.
happened, but it's a possibility.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off a couple of times there. Um,
Right.
no, I never expected Mario Fernandez to leave CSKA though, because clearly, like especially after the Russian passport thing, I didn't think that he'd leave. And plus, when he moved over, I think that he said that he was in a really bad state over in Brazil, and he was always drinking and things like that. So his move to Russia was like to get him from one side of the world to the other and just forget about all that life. And I think that he found his home, and I never really imagined him going anywhere, even though he was linked to some big clubs.
I don't know. Misha, what do you think?
Um, well, I just was thrilled by listening to your exchange because, well, Russia being a sweet home for Quincy and Mario. Well,
Fernandez, yeah.
that sounds a little bit a little bit weird, but okay. We can be hospital, of course, we can. I think that very important point is that Vlasic is a Croatian, and they know what they have to do to build a football career. They
Yeah,
get used to living their country, being maybe teenagers sometimes at the age of 16 or 18, and
yeah,
uh, move somewhere to the absolutely unknown country and culture, and they
yeah.
adapt, they survive. And so I think that this makes the point of Artem a little bit more valuable for me about the predictions about his career, because Quincy is a kind of a well, he was born in Amsterdam. He grew
Yeah.
up in Holland. It's a huge football nation, and maybe sometimes that doesn't help you. Maybe on the contrary. But Vlasic, I'm quite sure that he knows his future step. I just hope it's not going to
Yeah.
be England, because it seems to me that in England he might lose himself. I think if he goes to, well, Spain, for example, not just
Yeah.
because I'm a fan of Spanish football, but I think that it's the way of playing is very suitable for him, and he might shine there, I think.
No, that's pretty fair. I think, like you say, I think that point you made about him being Croatian, and also the fact that Croatian players are recognized in Europe. So they
Hmm.
reached the World Cup final. He's a current Croatian international. He does very well. The Euros, if he does well at the Euros, then well, that's a guaranteed 30 million for CSK, and that's a big move for him. And I agree with the Premier League as well. I don't. I think the Premier League as a whole is overrated. I don't think the quality of football is as good as the hype. And I also think for a young player it can be very daunting just because of how aggressive the fans are. If you have one bad game, people will come up to you, and you're getting death threats and everything. I don't think it's the greatest atmosphere to grow. Maybe when you're 26, 27, then you go and like I don't know, Hakim Ziyech is one example. Players like
Hmm.
that when you already have experience playing in the league. So I think like Spain or Italy or even Germany wouldn't be bad for him. But I do think he has a very very bright future ahead of him. Um, next next topic we have is it's unfortunately a sad one, but it's a Russian football podcast. We touched on Tambov dying, and every single day there's new information in this Tambov movie or Tambov series. At one point, it looked like they were going to die. They only have about 6 or 7 players on contract left, and today the RPL held a meeting, and they said that they're going to give them money and they're going to give them some concessions so that they can run out till the end of the season. Um, Artem, I want to come to you first. What do you think of the concept of the RPL like helping Tambov? I know they did it with Anzi sort of, but do you think they should just let Tambov die, or do you think giving them a donation is fine?
Oh, see, I really don't know. See, I don't know why Tambov have run out of money. Like, if it's government funding that's been cut from, like, let's say, like whatever the government around that area has cut funding to the club, then I kind of understand it. Whereas if it was like spending on things that they didn't need, and kind of mismanaging money, in that case, I never think that clubs should be bailed out. I think that they should suffer the consequences of what they've done. So it's a really tough call. Like, everywhere I've looked, I've tried to find some articles on it, and it like everywhere just kind of says that they're dying. Maybe Misha knows a little bit better and he can educate us. I think you're kind of in the same boat as me, aren't you?
How much time do we have?
As long as you want.
Yeah, we have
This
the
is a
whole
ve-
line.
this is a very, very long and a very sad story, because the one of the huge problems that Russian football has to overcome is the dependence of the on the
Oh,
local budgets. Sometimes it's very difficult for me to explain it to foreigners how Russian clubs operate. Sometimes, and very often, occasions, they are sponsored by the regional
yeah,
budgets. Mm, And if anything happens, for example, when the crisis strikes, the first things that you cut is football club, because it demands lots of money and you have to build the roads to support the elderly and so on and so on and so on. And of course they cut him out. In the case of Tambov, nobody was expecting them to play in the nobody wanted them to play in the Premier League. So the team and the club lived the kind of a different lives. They were not that connected, and in very accordingly to this Russian tradition, very strange and very
yeah,
wrong, I think. Tambov does depend on the local budget, 100%. And in September of 2020, there were the gubernatorial elections in Tambov
yeah.
area, and before just on the eve of those elections, the governor to be, the representative of the ruling party, and uh, just a no doubt winner of the upcoming elections,
Yeah.
he expressed his willingness to support the team to continue this run and so on. That was in September. When he won the elections, he forgot about all his promises. He started saying that, well, we're living in the COVID times. It's very hard. We don't have any extra money. We don't want to support the millionaires who just do nothing but play football. And so the club um, started uh,
Yeah, they had no money essentially. Yeah.
Yes. They, if you look, if you follow their results in the previous season, they hadn't lost any game with a margin more than 2 goals. So
Yeah.
they were very competitive. They did survive in the Russian Premier League. They showed a very good run at the end of the season. So they had that fighting spirit. They are not very strong team, of course, but they fight. This is something that most fans like. But this season, well, when you don't get your salary for 4 or 5 months,
Yeah.
what's your motivation gonna be? And now, when we talk about the kind of a salvation of the football club with the money of the league, oh my God, I just don't. This is the Pandora box. This is not healthy at all, because if any club has any kind of a financial problems now, so they can blackmail the league that we're gonna end the season right now. I don't know how to say it in English correctly.
Yeah,
So if you don't want the whole league to collapse, so you just help us. Why does the league has to help? What's happening? Why is that? Okay, they are in charge for the competition. Okay, I got it. But do they have the capacity to fund the club? I would like to know the sources. I would like to know how much do they give, for how long time, will those money get back to the league or not? I have too many questions. And besides, there is one more thing. The clubs that were on that meeting today, they
yeah.
kind of decided to give to loan the players to Tambov. What?
Hmm. Yeah,
This is
How's
the
that's
how's that
thing.
possible? That's not normal. That's not normal.
Misha, I
yeah.
completely agree with everything you've said. And even one of the things that will like drives me to like kind of lobby against this is if we do this for Tambov, what's to say that other governments will be like, well, if we just get rid of, if we stop funding for that football team, the league will just
Yeah,
take care of it anyway.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
it's just a whole mess, and this ridiculousness of every club will send them a player like this. It's the same thing as when a new MLS team comes in and every team has to lend them or sorry draft them players and everything. It's ridiculous. I really don't like it, and I
mhm.
hope that okay, we know that it's going to happen again in the future, that other teams are going to go bankrupt, but can we please just not do this? This, like you said, it's the Pandora box. We can't open it. Let's just leave it
Yeah.
there.
Uh, Probably you guys haven't read that, but there was an interview with with the president of Russian Premier League, Sergei Pryatkin, at the end of the previous year, or maybe at the very beginning of 2021. And
Mhm.
one of the things that he was very proud of uh, is the thing that there has never been an occasion when the team collapsed during the season. After the season, yes, that did happen to Anji, to Amkar, but all of them managed to get to the finish line. Tambov is risking to be the first one, and that would be not very. This was that would be ugly. They want to avoid that. I get that, but how did the club with that poor finance situation? How did they get to the how they get the
License,
I
yeah.
don't know the allowance to play and so on. How were they allowed to enter the season? They don't have a stadium. They play 400 kilometers away from Tambov.
Yeah. Hmm.
They so well, I just
Yeah, no, it's a
that
mess because
that's mind blowing. Absolutely.
yeah, because like even as a club, Tambov are very I don't no one really likes Tambov. Yeah, they have some good players there, but I don't understand. I mean, it's fine. It's a blow to the league's pride that a club has to collapse. But when the situation is that bad and you have no players left, I feel like the best thing to do is just dissolve, give everybody three extra points, and
Yeah.
move on. It's one bad club, and then do something better with your league so that clubs don't have to get in this situation or make
I
your exactly. So I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, go on, Artem, my man.
sorry, yeah, I completely agree. I actually think that there should be a new licensing system, but like I see I don't know how possible this is, but like usually when there's something like this, there's a guarantor to say, okay, if Tambov can't finish the league, someone will have to pay, and there should be a guarantee there somewhere. And if the club can't get a guarantee, well, guess what? You don't get a license. You can't play in the league.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's just a mess. But going on from this similar topic, Misha, one of your in one of your interviews, you said that you're from the Magadan region in Russia, right?
Yes. Yes. I was
Which
born there.
yeah. So if any of our listeners or viewers don't know where that is, it is like far. It's in the far east. It's very
Yeah.
far east
Super.
towards
How
Super
Russia.
did how
far.
do you just dox yourself?
I did dox myself. My please don't please don't come to my house or anything. But Magadan is I'm gonna. But
You're
the
not gonna
thing,
guess.
It's 9 hours flight from Moscow.
yeah, look at that. Just
Jesus.
once Google wants to load, thank you.
Even
It's
Google
loaded.
doesn't know where Magadan is,
Yeah,
you know.
look at where that is. That is more east than Japan. Is wild. But
Yeah.
is there any football there?
No, no,
Exactly.
not
So
that
I
I'm
mean,
aware of.
yeah.
Um,
So that's a common topic in Russian football is that most of the football is in the West and
yes,
there's very little on the East. So how
yeah.
what are your like what would you do to solve the problem of making football better in the East? Because I feel like there can be a few creative solutions. I feel like some clubs can be allowed to join like the J League or the K League. It's audacious, but it's better than what we have right now. Whereas some people have suggested that you split up the country and do like an Eastern League and a Western League. What do you think should be done, Misha?
Um, well, first of all, I think that there must be a kind of recognition of the situation. We have to understand that the clubs that are located that far east, they do not have those resources. They don't have those financial abilities as the teams in the western part of the country. So they live in the kind of a league of their own. There have been a season maybe a couple of years ago when there were only 6 teams in the whole
Yeah,
Far East conference. So well, because no more teams could enter that league due to their financial situation. So it's a disaster. How to change that? Well, I think that it must be a kind of a complex of measures when you stimulate the local business to support the teams there.
yeah,
I think that we're a big country, and a lot of people in our country have this imperial mindset.
yeah,
Uh, if we're big, we are strong, we're prosperous, we have to be like that. Well, it's not like that, and it sometimes it's very difficult to do sports, to go in for sports, to build a career in not only in Magadan. For example, if we look at the Republic of Yakutia,
yeah,
it's minus 54 or something like that at the moment right there. So it's not suitable for football. But still, there are people, the enthusiasts, the crazy guys maybe, who try
yeah,
to play football there. You have to support them. You have to help them. You have to build the artificial grounds, the I don't know, just indoor facilities. Provide them with that. Just help them. Give them a hand. Uh,
yeah,
but sometimes I think that sometimes it should be done by the local business, by the local authorities. But the problem is that the taxation system, we're not gonna spend much time on that, because well it's the political and economical topic. A lot of taxation goes to Moscow and doesn't get back to the regions, and so they have to survive. And well, of course they don't have serious opportunities for football right now. Well, this is the first you sacrifice. And when we hear that some Russian teams want to play in the leagues of South Korea or Japan, well, it's very sad, but I think that it's the reality, because we cannot, our own country cannot provide them enough to play and stay
yeah.
in Russia. Well, I think it's terrible.
Yeah, I think you're
Mm,
absolutely right. It is ridiculous that there's not some kind of like even, a Far East League, because clearly those teams don't have the resources, like you said, to go and play in Moscow every week, or to like, like if you had Ska Habarovsk playing against, like Kaliningrad or something like that, that's a like that's you're taking the whole Siberian Express and
It's 11.
further.
It's a 10 or 11 hours flight. That's
Exactly.
insane. That's insane. It's
Exactly.
more than wow, it's just crazy. You can fly all over the Europe for a couple of times.
That's the thing. It's like Russia is such a big country, and there needs to be some kind of division because just cannot have these clubs having to travel that far. And it is a big shame that football isn't
There are there are
as
some
supported.
ideas. Sorry to interrupt. There are some ideas of reforming the lower leagues, and one of them, very sane. It sounds sane to me. Is to divide them regionally. That's a very right, a very healthy approach, I think, because you don't put the teams from, for example, Magadan and Samara in the same league. Uh, of course, well, if you win the Far East division, if you want to move up to one league up. Of course, you have to find the financial resources and so on. You have to be ready for that. But if you don't want to do that, okay, you play in this Far East League. You try to enjoy and maybe sometimes find the resources to go up. So, well, it's just normal. Uh, but this kind of reforms are just projects, and they are not on the table of the Russian Football Union president, so far as I know.
That's the thing. It's in Russia. What you just said is so logical, but in Russia we don't do logic.
No,
It's
no, no, no.
if something
We
makes sense,
despise
no,
logics.
that exactly that's exactly it. So I won't be holding my breath to wait for something logical to happen in those lower leagues with those smaller cities. I guess we'll move on to a slightly more happy topic, I guess.
Are
Um,
there any?
oh yeah, there are a good few. Like
There's a few.
you mentioned Arshavin earlier. There you once compared him to Gary Lineker. You said he was the Gary Lineker of Russian football.
Yeah.
Um, so here's my question for you. He's clearly a very good expert, and he's very good on TV. He's very knowledgeable. You can tell from the way he speaks, the way he analyzes football. He's just fantastic at it. Do you think that he could translate those kind of skills and knowledge to, like, one of the things we've discussed on the podcast a good few times is, if Javier Ribalta leaves Zenit, will Arshavin be the man to step in? Do you think he'd succeed in that kind of role, or do you think that's above him?
It depends. It depends on how much power he gets. Because if he has to be a kind of a small part of the puzzle in this huge Gazprom Zenit organization, I think that it will be very difficult for him to make any difference. If if the Gazprom bosses will believe that he's a kind of a leader that can provide good transfers and changes, and that he can develop any kind of a strategy and allow him to do that, not following their own ideas and their own views and so on, maybe sometimes even their own interests. If they allow him to do that, I think that that he might be a successful manager.
No, that's fair because he's already working in like a youth development role. I think he's the youth
Yeah.
coordinator or something. And because we guessed it, and like some signs are pointing towards the fact that he might become the sporting director. He's been given a lot of opportunities by Zenit. He's joined some European groups, some European professional groups,
Yeah.
and it seems like they're trying to build him up to become. And we're not big fans of it, but hopefully he proves us wrong. Hopefully Ribalta stays, and maybe Arshavin can also help the club. But the more important question is, Misha, do you think Arshavin will come on this podcast?
I can try to persuade him. Uh, you know, I've never talked to him in English. I know that he speaks English. Well, maybe he will. Who knows? Why not?
Honestly, if you get if you somehow, I know we're only joking, but if you somehow manage to like get Arshavin on this podcast, I think we don't even know what we'll do. You might be like you might be God for us or something. That would be, we can't, it's that it's that massive for us. But the last question before we go, and this is just some small questions. Misha, who do you think, because the season restarts in I think 2 weeks now, who do you think is going to win the league this season?
Um, well, it seems to me that Zenit still has the best chances
Yeah,
because of his 4 points margin, and because it is the most stable. It has the most stable team
yeah.
with the most options than any others. Than any other team. So I think they are strong favorites to me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think they're a few points ahead as well. I think they have like a 4 or 5 or even more point lead right now. So I think that might be hard to
Yeah.
usurp, I guess. Artem, do you also think Zenit are going to win the league?
Yeah, like when we went into the winter break, I wasn't so certain, but now I'm more confident as well. The 4 point lead is quite big with 11 games left, and
Yeah,
I don't know. I just like even the way they're playing a preseason right now, and yeah, I don't see Zenit losing it, if that makes sense. Losing it, not any game. I think that
yeah.
they'll win the league, and then it'll be close between Spartak and CSK for second. I still believe Krasnodar can't top five, by the way.
Oh yeah, Misha, do you think Krasnodar will get Europe this season? Because it's running bet we have. I don't think that they're going to do it. Apart if they like unless they win the Europa League, but I don't think they're going to make the top five this season. What about you?
It's just they are 2 points away from the fifth place, so everything is possible. I think that they suffered more than any other Russian club because
Yeah,
of the injuries and the COVID and everything. Uh, if they if they manage to, if they have an opportunity to play with the best players they have, I think they can fight even for a higher position. I think then they can fight even for the third place, because it's just five. They are 5 points away from Spartak Moscow. Too much depends on the calendar,
yeah,
and we have to compare who has the better calendar. I don't think that it might be that it can tell us anything right now, but
yeah.
we have to think about it.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's the main reason. I think Krasnodar just, the injuries they had, like in the Champions League, they were playing Ramirez and Petrov on the wings, who are two fullbacks. I think ability-wise, Krasnodar have enough to win the league, but obviously they're inconsistent. They have injuries a lot, so that's the issue. But Misha, it was great having you on. It was a great discussion. We're honored. It's very refreshing. We hope you'll come back later as well. We hope you enjoyed coming on.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I did. Thank you very much.
yeah, and Artem, as always, would you like to do the honors? Would you like to wrap it up nicely?
Yeah, just before I wrap it up, Misha, do you want to plug your Twitter or
Oh
anything
yeah, my
else?
bad.
Uh, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah.
So your Twitter is of course this, but you also have a couple of podcasts, don't you?
Yes, yes, I do. I have. Well, it's a long story to tell. Yes, I have two of them, but uh, one of the most that I'm proud of is it's called the Sounds of Football. In Russian it is Zvuki Futbola, and we talk about the events of the weekend in football, and from time to time I make some special short series of historian podcast on
Hmm.
different stuff. For example, we had a 15 series about the Russian football from 1992 to 2007, as far as I remember.
Right.
Just telling what kind of football was
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
in the 90s. It was very interesting for me as well. So yeah, I do have a couple of podcasts. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
guys. So anybody who speaks Russian and wants to check out some podcasts, make sure to check those out, because I'm sure they're fantastic as well. So Misha, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Um, guys, if you did enjoy this podcast, leave a like on YouTube, gold medal on Sportrex, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you.